Hello, my dears. Welcome to Walnut Stories, the home of amazing stories and legends. Today, I will tell you the story of the mysterious half man. A long time ago, there was a village near the Kabuchai forest. People there lived as hunters and gatherers. Wild animals were in abundance. There were lions, elephants, zebras, antelopes, giraffes, and buffaloes, and many more other animals that live in the forest. There were hippos, crocodiles, tortoises, and fish in the rivers. The people only hunted what they needed. They kept cows, goats, sheep, chicken, ducks, and turkeys to get milk, meat, and eggs. They also planted crops and gathered fruits, nuts, and roots to enrich their diet. They lived peacefully for years. Scattered across the landscape were huge stones, still present to this day, a testament to the truth of this story. There were stones shaped like sleeping elephants, their trunks seemingly reaching for water. There was a cluster of rocks that resembled the pride of lions, frozen in a timeless hand, and one that resembled a crocodile lurking on the river bank, waiting for prey. Then there were the giant human forms, with arms outstretched, as if forever guarding the village, and some shaped like giant ogres that scared the children beyond their wildest imaginations. It was whispered that ancient spirits were trapped within these stones. Three brothers, Juma, Kitui, Nyongesa, and their friend Wafula, went to the forest bordering the village to hunt for hares to make soup for that evening's meal. They were armed with sharp, strong pointed sticks. Their hearts pounded with anticipation, looking forward to that day's catch. Nyongesa, the youngest, walked faster, his eyes darting everywhere. I will be the first to trap a hare today, he declared, his voice filled with excitement. Juma, the eldest, cautioned, don't get carried away. There are dangerous animals here. Let's not go deep into the forest. Remember to stay close to me. The others nodded in agreement. Kitui silently vowed to be the one to get the first catch, so that he could be praised back home. The forest canopy blocked out the sun, making the forest dark and ominous. Overcome by fear and a sense of foreboding, their friend Wafula told them that he was uncomfortable and decided to return home. The remaining brothers were excited to see ripe mangoes. They forgot the hunt and climbed the trees to enjoy the sweet, succulent fruits. They soon lost track of time. The sun slowly snaked its way beyond the horizon. The brothers saw this and climbed down. It is late. We have to go back home and come back tomorrow to hunt, said Juma. Kitui and Nyongesa agreed, and they retraced their steps on the trail leading back home. A few moments later, Kitui saw a hare darting ahead and followed it. His brother called him, but he kept running after the hare. Soon he found himself deep in the forest. Suddenly, he heard the sound of a branch breaking near him. Believing it to be his two brothers, he called out, Juma! Nyongesa! Feeling relieved that he had been found. When no response came, fear gripped him. The hair at the back of his neck stood on edge. An awful stench of rotten, dead matter hit his nostrils. He saw the silhouette of a huge monster standing over him. It was an ogre. He was terrified. He screamed, willing his feet to run, but they were frozen on the spot. The ogre grabbed him. He struggled to escape from the clutches of the huge hands, but it was futile. The huge, ugly nails cut deep into his skin, making his blood to gush out. Some of his clothes were torn off as he struggled to try to get away. The brothers heard the loud scream and called out repeatedly, "Kitui! Kitui!" as they ran towards the sound. Then they saw it, a trail of blood leading deeper into the woods. They followed it and finally came upon a gruesome sight. Kitui's bloody clothes lay scattered on the ground. Kitui was nowhere in sight. Terrified, they ran back to the trail leading back home. They arrived back home panting, tears streaming down their eyes. They reported what had happened. The village elders quickly mobilized a team of warriors to rescue Kitui. But as if nature had conspired to frustrate their efforts, it began to rain, a thunderstorm that made it impossible for them to go near the forest that evening. The boy's mother could not stop crying. The neighbors only stared, offering words of consolation. All the warriors volunteered the next day to go to the forest to search for the boy. Even the women joined in to help find him. Over the following days, weeks, and months, search parties scoured the forest. But it was futile. It was as if Kitui had vanished into thin air, without a trace. In the deepest part of the forest, Kitui lay under a tree, bound tight by strong ropes. The sight of the ogre devouring huge pieces of flesh made him faint countless times. He saw the carcasses of wild animals on huge stones near him. He screamed occasionally, hoping that someone would hear him and come to his rescue. He was untied every evening and forced to eat a portion of raw, smelly, rotten flesh. During the first few days, he gagged and threw up because of the awful stench. As days went by, the threat of starvation made him succumb, and he ate what he was given. He swallowed the flesh quickly to avoid the smell. He lost track of time and concentrated on conserving his strength, hoping to escape one day. He was surprised to find that he had become fat, not knowing he was preparing himself to become a feast for the ogre. Over time, more light penetrated to where he was tied. He could tell that the weather had become drier. The stench of rotten flesh faded as the rotten meat supplies dwindled. One evening, he was not given his daily portion of rotten meat. The ogre stared at him with an evil grin, sharpening a huge machete. It slowly dawned on him that he would become that day's meal for the ogre. He screamed endlessly, dreading his fate. The ogre untied him and tightly held his right hand. The machete went up and came down swiftly. He felt a sharp sting, and then the pain came in waves. He saw half of his body hit the ground, jerking involuntarily as the blood spurted away in jets. The ogre had sliced him in half, from top to bottom. Overcome with shock, he became unconscious. The ogre feasted on the left half and left the remains for another day. The monstrosity did not bother to secure the remains. After all, dead prey cannot move. The half-man regained consciousness, woken by the huge snoring sound from the sleeping ogre. Oh yes, the half-man had miraculously survived. Half a body from top to bottom, half a head, half nose, half mouth, an eye, ear, a hand and shoulder, half torso, a thigh and leg. Was it possible to survive in such a condition? Weak from loss of blood, but driven by the will to survive, he picked a big stick and used it as a makeshift crutch to support himself. He slowly limped away, in so much pain, almost blacking out. He was not aware, but 4 days had passed since the ordeal. The blood from the wounds had clotted, but started dripping again. He feared that the ogre or wild animals might follow his bloody trail and devour him. He was determined to make as much distance between himself and the ogre as possible. The sheer determination to live kept him going. After a whole day's journey, he decided that he had covered enough ground. He found a thick bush and collapsed inside to rest. Small animals were drawn to him by the scent of blood. He lay still and captured them when they got near enough and ate them raw to get his strength. He also survived by eating small insects, dry nuts, fresh fruits, and roots that he found nearby. His infected wounds, gnawed by rodents when he slept, cleared off the infections and helped him to heal. The diet of herbs and nuts also played a role in saving him. He lost count of time. It took him a couple of years for the wounds to heal and start looking for his way back home. Years had passed, and people in the village resumed their normal lives. Overcome by the tragedy of the loss of their son, Kitui's parents died from despair. Danger still lurked in the forest, and women and children were banned from venturing into the forest for firewood, fruits, and hunting. Even the warriors themselves hunted on the outskirts of the forest. The tracks in the forest became overgrown and disappeared. Juma and Nyongesa lived with the guilt of having abandoned their brother in the forest. They grew into men, but the joy of youth had been snatched away by the loss of their brother and parents. This was replaced by a deep-seated fear, loneliness, and recurring nightmares, where Kitui appeared to them as half a man, something that they did not understand. One evening, when the sun had just set, Kitui limped his way back to the village. It was close to 7 years from the time he had disappeared. He had tried to find his way out of the forest all that time, but no tracks existed, making it difficult for him to find his way back home. He expected the people to welcome him back ceremoniously, but no. Everyone ran to their houses, screaming, and locked their doors in terror. Even the bravest warriors couldn't stand the sight. It was an unsightly creature, a giant half-man, towering over the village. Unknown to Kitui, blood from the ogre's flesh wounds, suffered when hunting wild animals, had found its way to Kitui's daily ration of rotten flesh. As a result, he also became a giant human. Add the fact that he was half the figure of a half human. He had no idea what he had become. A monster. All he wanted was to belong. He felt rejected. He limped to where his parents' house used to be. Only an old collapsed shack existed, a sign that no one had occupied it for years. He wondered what had happened to them. There were two small huts next to it. This could be his brother's houses. He called out, "Juma! Nyongesa!" No one answered or opened the doors. He did not realize that even his calls came out in unnatural bellows. Tears ran down his cheeks. The half-man could not imagine going back to survive alone in the forest, something he had tried to escape all that time. He had falsely imagined a warm welcome, a hot meal prepared for him. All those hopes were shattered. As if in mockery of his pain, it started raining, soaking him wet, washing away his tears. He sadly limped back to the edge of the forest. The pain and loneliness that had trapped him all that time consumed him again. How could he go through that life again? Overcome with bitterness, the half-man prepared his revenge. They will have to pay for abandoning him, starting with Juma, his eldest brother. On the darkest night of the following week, a strange chilling sound was heard echoing through the village. Boo! 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 Followed by the heavy thump, thump, thump of monstrous footsteps. The villagers huddled together in their houses, terrified, their children clinging to them, whispering, "The half-man has come back." The footsteps grew closer to their houses. A deep growling sound was heard wailing. "Juma, Juma, Juma, Juma. Why did you leave me alone, Juma? Juma, Juma. Captured by an ogre brother, you left me alone. Slice me down in half, brother. I became a half-man. You have rejected me, brother, but I cannot live alone. Juma, 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 Juma." He then broke down the door to one of the huts. A chilling scream pierced the night. No one dared go outside to check. What do you think happened next? Please share your comments in the comment section. The story teaches us to offer support to those who need help. Never allow yourself to be overcome by unhealthy competition. It may lead you to doom. Parents, do not leave your children unchaperoned. Ogres may be lurking around, waiting for an opportune time to capture them and rob them of their innocence. I hope this story has sparked your imagination. Did you like it? Would you like another interesting story? Subscribe to One Lot Stories and leave me a like. Turn on the notifications button so you know as soon as I post the next video. Do not forget to share. See you in the next one. Bye.